All right, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and it's great to have Devo here. You're the founder and CEO of Adventr. You're trying to create a new type of platform to make interactive video and interactive video experiences more accessible to brands and to people to create with and content creators, so people can have new types of experiences with content on existing traditional platforms. And you co-founded Good Music. You helped sign John Legend, which has impacted the world a lot through his music. And you've just been somebody that's been at the forefront of technology for quite some time. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Awesome. Happy to be here.
Great. So where did your passion for music and business leadership, where did that come from? Was it something that you always had as a kid, Devo? You I want to be able to go and create my own business. How did that kind of start?
Yeah, I wanted to be a stockbroker when I was young, and I didn't know what a stockbroker is. I still don't really know what a stockbroker is, but I knew it was someone that I wore a suit and would dress nice, and that they were paid based on their intelligence, their risk taking, and on their own efforts to some extent. And so I found out later that's called entrepreneurship. And so that was the interest to me. It just happened to be that music just happened to be the first vertical I got a chance to be involved with.
Mm-hmm. So you were at PwC in strategy, and then you decided to co-found Good Music. How did that shift happen?
Yeah. So I graduated from Wharton undergrad, so I knew I wanted to be involved in business, and went to PwC. My first day there, I hated it. I knew I was going to quit. PwC at the time was about 40,000 people in the company. So it didn't matter, and especially me being young in the company, it didn't matter if I showed up or not. They would never know. It wouldn't really matter. So I didn't. I actually, when I moved to New York, I live a block or two away from where PwC's offices were. And so if you weren't assigned to a project, then you were on the beach. And so you didn't have to come in. You just had to check your email. So I didn't go in. I think for 3, 4, 5 months, I wasn't assigned anything, and I just didn't work. I got paid, and I would just try to stay under the radar, and no one knew and no one cared. And so that's fun, but it's not fulfilling in that no one even cares if I show up for work. So I wanted to do something where I would have more impact, and I got the day I got assigned to my first project, I quit. And I already had a job at Venture Architects, which was this VC sort of consulting shop where we help companies raise money. Later stage companies raise money, help them get their business strategies together. And so did that. And at the same time, I was DJing for my roommate, DJing at little bars in New York. And I started to connect with my cousin, who was a producer at that time. This was maybe 2000, late 2000, early 2001. Then the .com bubble burst. There was a lot of shrapnel, everything just shut down with the internet. And then September 11th happened. And so anyways, there was this big economic crush at that time. So all the venture capital money was gone. And that money is what fed our company. And so we had to downsize that company. And then just with September 11th, just even the bigger companies felt that as well. It was a huge impact. So Goldman Sachs and McKinsey, there's all these people losing jobs at these big companies. So all of my friends who worked at these big prestigious companies, they're getting laid off. Me, I worked at a tiny startup. I'm getting laid off. The only person I knew who was killing it was my cousin. My cousin was a producer from Chicago who had moved to New York and trying to be a rapper. He had dropped out of college, but he was starting to kill it. He was starting to become a millionaire. And he was doing everything you are not supposed to do. You're going into this creative space, dropped out of college. I did everything you're supposed to do. I went to a very fancy Ivy League school. I took the safe route to a big company. And my friends, we all did the same thing. And all of us are trying to figure out, I'm about to move to Houston with my family because there's just no money around here. So anyways, to make a long story even longer, Kanye West was my cousin, is my cousin, but it was that person at that time who was just crushing it, and he's just growing and growing and growing. And I'm like, maybe he knows something I don't. Maybe he's got something figured out that all the rest of us who are just doing what we're told don't quite have it figured out. And so I start, helping Kanye through my Wharton connections. He wanted to be an artist, didn't have a record deal. The first press articles about just Kanye West as an individual, I got through my Wharton connections. His booking agent, the number one agent in hip hop at the time, Kara Lewis. I got him a meeting with Kara Lewis through my Wharton connections, and he killed it. Performed on the table, gets the Kara Lewis deal, and we start to move. So that was how that transition happened. I didn't have any employment. I figured maybe he knows something. Let me try to see what he's doing. And then eventually, after I started making some moves, and I had no other job. There was no one hiring. And he was like, you should be around every day. And he started paying me $200 a week to be his assistant. And that's how we got started.
Mm-hmm. So how did you come to the point of discovering John Legend? Like, did you see some sort of song or performance? Like, why did you want to sign him?
Well, when I visited Penn, so much of the story revolves around Penn, but we'll move away from that in a second. But I remember I was in high school, it was hundreds of people that were thinking about going to Penn. And I was in this auditorium, and I saw a guy across the room, and this had never happened before. I was like, I don't know why, but me and this guy are connected. For whatever reason, me and him are going to be connected, like in a serious way. So somehow we both end up going there. Freshman year, I'm introduced to the same kid, and I'm like, oh, I hadn't met him before. I just saw him the previous year. And I was like, oh, that's the guy I was looking at. We ended up being part of the same circle of friends that we're still friends to this day. And we ended up all of us being roommates sophomore year and junior year, senior year. Some of us moved to New York together, and John was one of those people. And so at school, John was known as a great singer. He's like in an a cappella group. And he was just super talented. And as we moved to New York and we perform at weddings and bars, I would be the DJ in this little wedding band. But he was very clear his voice was special. And, he had gotten a job at BCG. He's very smart. And he was very programmatic about growing his business. So even from teenage age, he would have mailing lists. This is before really real internet. But he was very organized and had a growth operation early. Between the quality of his voice, that he had a structure to growing his brand, and specifically by the time I was working with Kanye and I'm telling him about my roommate who's really talented, Kanye is doing his soul music thing, and but it's still, he's borrowing from samples, he's bringing in musicians here and there. It's like always needing to find someone or something to be a resource for his thing. I'm like, if you bring in my roommate, he'll just be always available resource. He'll make your samples. He'll play the piano. It'll sound just like it's in the 70s. And so, but also with what John was doing, John is super talented, but just not sexy and not cool. I think in 4 years of college, I don't think John kissed a girl, for example. And no one cared. It wasn't a big deal. Just as I think back about that time, and then him becoming the sexiest man alive, according to People magazine, it was like, wow, like anything is possible. But the bigger thing, I was like, this guy's super talented, but the music isn't cool. So we can bring in Kanye's cool factor, and then bring his consistent soul and musicality to Kanye. I think it will be a win-win situation, and so that's why I put that together.
Mhm. It seemed like it was about convenience, but did you like really think that John could propel him to a different place as well, and that his voice was just so unique, or was it just more like based on like kind of the convenience of it, like hey, this would be financially make more sense for you, and he's kind of in the same group. Let's put it in together.
No, I wouldn't have gotten in music if I didn't know Kanye and know that he was an undervalued asset, and known John and
Uh-huh.
known he was an undervalued asset, and known that they both would make each other more powerful.
Huh. Interesting. So, at what point did you decide to then shift into building out your own business that you were running kind of like as a sole individual?
Well, I helped Kanye for a number of years get his personal music stuff going, and eventually, we started Good Music. I signed John over there, and as most producers do, I started my own label at some point. So I started Champion Sound, a label, a couple of years after this, and I signed Riot in Paris. Um,
Hmm.
and it's like a rock rap group that people haven't heard of. And so I was already starting my own company at that time. I had my own studio in Midtown Manhattan. Excuse me. And so yeah, I was already going down my own path. And then I wanted to reset my career. I knew I liked entrepreneurship. I know I liked building things. It's not super important to me that it's in music. Music, for a number of reasons at that time, is not a good space financially to be in through technology shifts and whatnot. So I actually went back to grad school and I got my MBA at Columbia, and I was going to go into private equity is the idea, which again is another method of entrepreneurship where we're buying something, doing things to make it way more valuable, and then selling it. And so that was the idea. And I had spent the previous 10 years or so in entrepreneurship in one way or another, whether that's from the VC side, starting an artist, starting a label, um, and growing them. It's the same thing to me. And when I was in grad school, as I'm trying to get my label going, I made a music video for Riot in Paris, the band that was signed to me, and we made it interactive. Um, we put out a regular music video, put it on YouTube. People said the song sucked. It's called Attack of the 5 Foot Hipster. You can still see it online. We literally shot it with an iPod, which is, I mean, people may not even know what that is listening to this, but um, but shot it with an iPod. People said the song sucked. It was a regular music video. The next week, we put out the same video for that same song, Attack of the 5 Foot Hipster. But this one had a few buttons in it. You could choose what scene you would see next. We were using annotations at the time that was on YouTube. And then you'd see people saying, oh, this song is dope. This is going to be a hit. I love this song. And they watched it longer and they shared it more. And they started going to our page and buying the song. They were not buying the song the previous week. And then these big companies started reaching out to me saying, I remember Viacom reached out, Vivo, saying, how do we get this sort of content in our platform? How do we make this? It took me 9 months to make this thing. We're just sort of hacking YouTube. So yeah, I'll take a quick step back. When I had worked for Kanye, one of the first jobs I had, one of the main reasons he hired me, besides making those connections, was to burn CDs. Because at the time you had to use a CD burner, play a song, hit record, and wait for the song to play, and then hit pause when it was done, and then the CD would stop recording. Then you do it again for another track. And so I would burn CDs for all these artists who wanted Kanye music. If you were DMX working on an album, you probably wanted Kanye West beats. I'm the person that you contacted. Then I have 1,000 tracks. I picked the best for DMX and I put it on the CD. Um, so and then iTunes came out where you didn't need to do that one to one thing. You could just select all the songs you want, hit burn, it makes a CD. And then LimeWire came out and Napster came out. This is like a history lesson for the kids out there. You should look up these things. They were really cutting edge at the time. MP3s came out. Then you didn't even need CDs anymore. And I was just fascinated by these formats, these media formats over time. How are they changing? They're getting smaller. They're getting more digital. They're getting to where they're more, you can manipulate them, send them to your friends. You couldn't do that earlier. So I thought, oh, MP3s, this is the most advanced audio can get. And then now we have streaming. You don't even, an MP3 is a dated concept, really, now. So I just had this real obsession with like formats and media formats. And so when I made this video and all these people were coming to me saying, how do we do this? I realized like, this is going to be a thing on the internet. Of course, our content will be in time more flexible and more dynamic, like every other thing on the internet. It just so happens video is a very heavy data rich format. So it'll take a minute before technically and creatively people can figure out how to do it. But that's going to happen clearly. And the same sort of confidence that I had in like, this artist is going to be something. With this and this, they're going to be out of here. It's the same thing with media. It is clear to me that how video existed 10 years ago would not be the permanent way video will live in the future. How will it change? Probably will be smaller files, probably will be more dynamic based on relevant information for each viewer. And so what does that look like? And so I just started building some tools. I wasn't trying to start my own business, but I'm like, let me just get ahead of it so I can be knowledgeable about this as the market goes more this way. And then, 10 years later, here we are with some of the most advanced video technology in the world.
Mm-hmm. So you build this out because you realize that there's a need for it. How did you start to get customers? Was it just there was so much interest from that video that you had all these brands reaching out to you? And how did you also kind of streamline? As you mentioned, it took 9 months to go and build the first video. How did you kind of create a platform that made this much simpler?
Yeah, well, I started learning to code Flash, which doesn't even really exist anymore. But started learning that, and then talking to my friends. If I wanted to do this, how would I do it? How would you do this? Started putting myself in the tech community, but really as a participant, as a junior participant, as a coder, really. And I literally was starting at the beginning and putting together little prototypes that are very trashy, but they kind of worked. And so I had my friends connect me with their own friends. At first, like, hey, can we try to do this for you? And we do it. It'd be a little clunky, but it would work. In terms of people would watch longer, and there's a higher propensity for people to go say, yeah, let me learn more when they're already engaged. Same thing we saw with our music video. And from there, we just started, I put together a website, and then, I used a few of the people we were working with as references, but it turns out there was enough people looking for these solutions that we started to get inbound customers from a crappy website. So yeah, that's how we started doing things. And then I was doing that for probably 2 or 3 years, and then was saying, let's raise some money. So I tried to go to venture capital, and you'd be surprised the companies that were coming to us. Us being like, yeah, me and my co-founder, from Disney to Sundance TV. We had a bunch of exciting customers with no marketing, just some crappy technology. And so, anyways, I tried to raise money. That was a non-starter. Being a Black tech founder, 8 years ago. It's different than today. Today is hard. 8 years ago was impossible. And being also being a rap producer. No VC fund had ever invested. Most of them didn't invest in no one black. They definitely didn't invest in no rappers or hip hop producers. And so that was a real challenge. But yeah, I didn't start this like, yeah, I'm going to start a company. We're going to take over. I was just like, let me build this and see if anyone will use it. And okay, now I need some money to actually grow this properly. And it was almost accidental to start with. That's how we got the ball rolling.
So I was reading this article, Devo, that your revenue from like early 2021 towards like the end of 2021, it increased 80 times. Like, what do you think was the biggest like result of that increase?
Well, there's a number of things. Number one, we're starting pretty low, and we started to build community. We started to. The thing that's interesting about our product is that, which is unlike 99% of products, every one of our customers and users, by definition, wants as many people as possible to know they're using our product.
Mm.
So whether you're one person sharing it to your 3 friends or your company sharing it to 10,000 other people, how do we start to take advantage of that to get other people to come into our ecosystem and become users? So over time, learning that and starting to get those mechanics together, that's how we started to get some real interesting growth happening.
So I think I also read this as well that you kind of have this like kind of expression where it's like if you can talk to your TV, you can talk to your phone. Why not talk to a video, right? And like, why do you think that that's kind of the next like logical extension there? Like, why not be able to talk to video, interact with video, and also how do you think the video today? How do you think the video in 5 years from now is going to compare to video today?
I think that's a great question, and that's what Adventr, what we're here to be the solution for. But yeah, I think we love video. I mean, you and me are on video right now, and average American watches over 5 hours of video a day. Every company invests in video. Every social media platform has turned into a video platform.
Yeah.
The vast majority of internet traffic that's going around you right now is video. Like, this is a video dominant society, and we're only going to be increasingly that way. So video is not just one thing; it's the thing. You think about the future, you probably will think less about. You don't see books and text and lots of letters. You see video. You see moving images everywhere. And so, if that's the case, and video is so important, why doesn't it have the same capabilities as your refrigerator or your this thing that you carry around? We think it should. And so so that's sort of the thesis, and even technically we could jump into how YouTube and Netflix make videos, and it's a lot more dynamic than you think. There's a lot of calculations and things happening in the background. That's why your video gets fuzzy, it gets better, because it's responding to things. Our thesis is the next evolution of streaming. Right now it responds to your environment and your bandwidth. That's fine. That's a starting point. The next evolution is that it'll be responding to data. And so the video that you see will say, well, Ben likes this and he responds to this and he hates this. That I see, it says, well, Devo, he loves this and he turns it off if you show him this. So how can we, in the simplest way, the generative AI helps with this, modify the video content so that what Ben sees is the most engaging for him and what Devo sees is the most engaging for him. That's where we see it going. And all we're doing at Adventr is making basically the rule set of where does the information about Ben come in? Okay, then how does that affect the media? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, boom. We're the rule system for how that should work. And including you being able to talk to it, which we have a patent on, is a pretty clear. You being able to talk to media and it talk back to you and say, hey, Ben, good morning. Do you want pancakes or eggs today, we see that being pretty expected in the trajectory, but it has to be designed somewhere. And so that's where we fit into the brain and the creative, what do you call it, like best practices around how this is made.
So what do you think is a long-term goal for Adventr? Like you're right now helping people create these types of videos. Like, do you see that changing in terms of what the platform is?
Yeah, I mean, right now, Adventr is a creative platform used mainly by marketers, but we have plenty of entertainment folks and education folks as well. But it is used, yeah, quite often for interactive storytelling and marketing now. And where we need to, we help people create whatever they envision, help these companies. What we want to do, what we are doing now, is really pushing people to move beyond interactivity and people interacting to more intelligent media. So that means connecting your video to your inventory system, to your shopping system, to people's browsing history, so that that's where this is what Ben likes, this is what Devo likes. That's where it makes the videos more smart in real time. So we're trying to get beyond the clicking and more into smart connected media at scale.
Well, I think that's all the questions that I had. Look, I appreciate you coming on. The stories that you have, of shaping this music world, what you did with Good Music and John Legend, and giving, kind of helping two different artists come to the forefront. I think that's been so impactful, and your insight there was ahead of the times. And what you're doing here now with interactive video, Devo, I think it's important what you're doing, and it creates a whole new dimension of human expression and creativity, one that's really not out there yet, and it also makes it more accessible to create for that. So I'm excited to see how your vision will continue to come to life, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Yeah, and if folks want to see more of what we're talking about, you can check us out at adventr.ai, which is ADVENTR.ai. We've been recently called the Siri of video. But you can literally go play with videos. You can talk to videos on that site, and you can sign up for free and make your own. So you can see firsthand what the future looks like there.
Awesome.